Good morning, everyone. Let's cut the fluff today. This isn't a sugar-coated message. This is a wake-up call. 3 simple words. Don't be an idiot. It sounds harsh. It sounds aggressive. But sometimes that's exactly what we need to hear. Because the truth is, too many people keep making the same mistakes, ignoring the signs, blaming the world, and calling it bad luck. But at the root of it all, foolish choices. There's a clear difference between ignorance and willful stupidity. Ignorance means you generally don't know any better. It means you are unaware, unexposed, uneducated in a certain area. But when you've already been taught the lesson, when you've already experienced the pain of making a mistake, and you still walk back into the same trap, that's not ignorance anymore. That's a choice. That's the moment when you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your own destruction. It's frustrating, even heartbreaking, to watch people ruin a potential not because they lack knowledge or support, but because they stubbornly refuse to apply what they've already learned. Life has a way of teaching us through repetition. It gives us chances, sometimes even too many, to learn and grow. But so often people choose to ignore those lessons. They nod during the motivational talk. They agree with the advice. They recognize the warning signs. But the moment life gets a little uncomfortable or unfamiliar, they run straight back to the behaviors that brought them pain in the first place. This isn't due to a lack of information. Just due to a lack of information, it's due to a lack of courage. It's easier to stay stuck in sickles than to break free from them. But comfort isn't a good excuse to stay stuck in sickles. Refusing to do better when you know better is also an act of disrespect, not just to others but to yourself. You're betraying your own values. You're dismissing your own growth. Every time you repeat a mistake you've already suffered through, you're sending a message to yourself that you're not worth the effort it takes to change. That kind of behavior chips away at your self-esteem. Over time you start believing that maybe this is just who you are, someone who never gets it right. But it's not true. You're not broken. You're just not committed to choosing better. And that's a decision you have the power to change at any moment. Let's also be honest about the impact this kind of behavior has on others. When you keep making the same poor choices, it doesn't only affect you. Your family sees it. Your friends carry the burden. Your team suffers. When you refuse to grow up, someone else has to pay the price for your irresponsibility. That's where the real danger lies. Not just in personal failure, but in how your refusal to evolve drags others down with you. People lose faith, lose respect, and eventually lose patience. So, it's not just about making your own life harder. It's about how your actions echo into the lives of those around you. Self-sabotage is one of the most silent, destructive forces in a person's life. And yet, it's often completely self-inflicted. Many people fall into the same pit again and again, not because they're unlucky or cursed, but because they keep walking the same path, expecting a different outcome. They go back to the same people who hurt them. repeat the same habits that failed them, and make the same decisions that once led to regret. The worst part, deep down, they often know what they're doing. There's an inner voice that warns them, a gut feeling that hesitates, but they silence it, choosing the familiar pain over unfamiliar change. And so, they spiral not because life is unfair, but because they keep putting themselves in harm's way. This pattern of repeated bad choices, is it random? It's rooted in emotion, fear, and habit. Sometimes it comes from low self-worth, where people don't believe they deserve better. Other times it's driven by a desire to stay in control, even if that control means choosing the predictable over the possibility of improvement. Comfort becomes the enemy of progress. There's a strange comfort in the known, even if the known is toxic. People would rather stick with the pain they recognize than risk the discomfort of new effort, new standards, and new boundaries. That mindset traps them in cycles they never escape. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Many people hide their sabotage behind excuses. They say they're just unlucky or that the world is out to get them. They blame others, the timing, the environment, everything except the one thing they can actually control: themselves. The truth is, they've become addicted to patterns that no longer serve them, and instead of breaking their cycle, they defend it. They protect their self-sustaining behaviors like their old friends, unaware that these habits are the very reason they are stuck. And the longer they stay in that place of denial, the deeper the damage goes, not just emotionally, but mentally and spiritually too. The consequences of this kind of sabotage are long kissing. Repeated bad choices don't just keep you stagnant, they actively drag you backwards. Opportunities disappear, relationships deteriorate, dreams begin to feel out of reach. Eventually, the person begins to believe that they are incapable of change, that they are simply unlucky or not meant for more. But the truth is far more painful. They've built the prison brick by brick, one bad decision at a time. Recognizing this truth is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because until a person accepts that they are the source of their repeated failures, they will never take the power back to write their future. In today's world, self-centeredness is often praised as the key to personal growth. We hear people say, "At least I'm aware of my flaws," as if that alone is a badge of honor. But awareness without action is hollow. It's easy to recognize your own mistakes, to admit your weaknesses, to identify the things you're doing wrong. In fact, most people are painfully aware of what's holding them back. They can list their bad habits, describe their toxic patterns, and even articulate why they continue to make poor decisions. But what they lack is the drive or the discipline to do something about it. Without action, self-centeredness becomes nothing more than a mirror you stand in front of every day without ever deciding to clean the reflection. Awareness is supposed to be the starting point, not the destination. It's where growth begins, not where it ends. Imagine a person standing at the edge of a cliff, fully aware of the danger in front of them, yet choosing to step forward anyway. That's what many people do every day. They understand their problems, they talk about their struggles, they even seek advice, but they never apply what they learn. They consume books, watch videos, listen to podcasts, and nod their heads at every piece of wisdom. But when the time comes to act, they freeze. They stay in the same job they hate. They stay in the relationship that drains them. They keep the same unhealthy routines that sabotage them. Awareness without action creates a mental and emotional prison made of good intentions and wasted potential. There is a dangerous comfort in being self-suitor without making changes. It gives people a false sense of progress. They feel like they're growing just because they understand themselves better. But understanding is not transformation. You don't get stronger by realizing you're weak. You get stronger by doing the work to change it. The world is full of intelligent, self-certain individuals who are stuck because they've convinced themselves that knowing the problem is enough. But knowing is only step one. Unquote, learn what you're ready discover. Allot, on behalf of, is uncomparable. Step, one step at a time. From X, from in, from out. Unquote, what you already understand. With me, the real growth happens in motion. It happens when you put your insight into practice. It happens when you resist the urge to slip back into old behaviors and start choosing differently, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient. Action demands courage, persistence, and accountability. It's messy, it's tiring, and it rarely happens overnight. But it's the only thing that turns awareness into progress. Until you act on what you know, you are wasting your insight. Self-awareness might win you praise, but not. Until you act on it, it won't happen. Self-awareness might win you raise, but not. That's where you fail. Self-awareness might win you raise, but not. You cannot reach, fail. Accountability is the foundation of any lasting personal development. It's the moment you stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. Growth doesn't begin when things go your way. It begins when you take ownership of your actions, even when the outcome isn't what you hoped for. Far too often, people delay their growth because they're busy blaming others. Their parents, their boss, their ex, their friends, or even fate. But the harsh truth is this: no matter who hurt you, misled you, or doubted you, your life is still your responsibility. I give you a delight you entrust in me. I consider this field, if God would have destroyed. Taking accountability means you stop making excuses and start making changes. You stop saying, I'm like this because of my past, and start saying, it's my responsibility to grow beyond it. Yes, bad things happen. Yes, you may have been dealt a difficult hand. But what you do next is entirely in your control. The victim mindset is seductive. It gives you a reason not to try. It justifies inaction and invites pity, but it also robs you of power. We also robs you of power. True power comes when you acknowledge your laziness, your avoidance, or your stubbornness. Real growth begins when you acknowledge. The problem is, accountability is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about who you've been, what you've tolerated, and what you've failed to fix. It can feel humiliating to admit that your failures are mostly your fault, but in that discomfort lies freedom. Once you realize that you are the source of many of your own problems, you also realize that you can be the solution. You don't have to wait on someone else to save you. You don't have to hope for perfect conditions. You simply need to be honest with yourself. And that honesty can shatter every limitation you've built around your potential. Can you to feel ignored or hurt, or tempted or tortured or cry? Dochter, when you become accountable, excuses lose their power over you. It has to be earned through daily effort, self-consistency, and honest evaluation. You stop saying it's just the mature acceptance that growth won't happen by accident. It has to be earned through daily effort, self-subsistence, and honest evaluation. People who rise in life aren't the ones who always get it right. They are the ones who take full ownership when they get it wrong. Comfort is seductive. It's warm, predictable, and easy. It's the soft pillow of daily routine, the cushion of habits we have grown attached to. Even when those habits are harming us, comfort convinces you that growth can wait until tomorrow. It tells you that where you are is good enough. It whispers that the risks of change are too high and that staying still is the safer path. And people believe it because pushing past your limits is hard. Trying something new means facing fear, embarrassment, even failure. But here's the truth. Everything you want in life, success, confidence, strength, growth, sits on the other side of discomfort. Staying in your comfort zone might protect you from stress in the short term, but in the long run, it destroys progress. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. They're clever, convincing, and often dressed as logic. I don't have time. I'm too tired. It's not the right moment. I'm not ready yet. These statements aren't always lies, but they become lies when we use them as shields to avoid responsibility. Most people don't lack time. They lack focus. Most aren't too tired. They're just uninspired. As we wrap ourselves in these excuses to avoid the hard truth that we are choosing not to act. Excuses provide a temporary relief from guilt, but they also delay our evolution. They keep us locked in mediocrity, convincing us that we are doing the best we can, when deep down we know we are not. This cycle of comfort and excuses creates a dangerous illusion of progress. You feel busy, but you're not productive. You feel tired, but you haven't pushed yourself. You feel like you're doing your best, but deep down you know you're avoiding the real work. This illusion is comforting, but is also paralyzing. People waste years in this fog, waiting for the right time, building mental justifications and lowering their standards to match their effort. Instead of moving forward, they master the art of standing still. And the scariest part is that life doesn't wait. While you're delaying, others are growing, learning, adapting, and outpacing you in every way. Breaking free from comfort requires intentional discomfort. It requires getting up earlier, doing what scares you, holding yourself to higher standards even when nobody's watching. It means recognizing your excuses for what they are and refusing to be seduced by them anymore. Growth demands sacrifice of ease, of excuses, and of the parts of yourself that resist change. It's not supposed to feel good at first. In fact, it's supposed to challenge you. You do in seeding, the problem is what you feel, is what you do. You trust even when you start what comes out of your nose. They make decisions based on where they want to go, not where they're comfortable staying. Potential is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood concepts in personal development. Everyone has it. Everyone is born with a unique blend of talents, strengths, and possibilities. But potential means nothing without action. It's like owning a powerful engine but never turning it on. People love to talk about their potential, the things they could do, the places they could go, the greatness they could achieve. But too often their daily actions tell a completely different story. You can't claim to be chasing excellence while making choices that keep you average. Your habits must reflect your ambitions. If your goals and your actions don't match, you're only daydreaming. The gap between who you are and who you could be is filled with the things you do every single day. If you want to rise, you need to behave like someone who's rising. That means being disciplined when it's hard, consistent when it's boring, and courageous when it's scary. You can't live with low effort and expect high-level outcomes. Every decision you make is either feeding your potential or starving it. It's not about having massive breakthroughs every day. It's about stacking small wins, one on top of another, through focused, intentional effort. Your routine should reflect the level of life you're trying to reach. If it doesn't, you're falling short of what you're truly capable of. Living below your potential doesn't just slow your progress. It builds resentment. Deep inside, you know when you're not giving your best. You can feel it in your gut. There's a tension that builds when your soul is made for more, but your actions are stuck in less. You might smile and pretend everything's fine, but you carry a quiet frustration with yourself. That feeling doesn't come from failure, it comes from knowing you haven't really tried, you haven't pushed, you haven't committed. That internal conflict erodes your confidence, poisons your motivation, and creates a sense of dissatisfaction that no external achievement can fix. The world doesn't need your potential, it needs your performance. It needs the version of you that shows up, delivers, and turns possibility into progress. That's how real impact is made, not through untapped talent or hidden gifts, but through visible, measurable action. You have to stop waiting for the right moment and start becoming the person who deserves the life you want. Stop selling yourself short with lazy decisions and half-hearted effort. You weren't born to stay average. You were born to rise, but only if your actions rise with you. People often believe they need something external to change their lives. A better job, more money, a supportive friend, a lucky break. But the truth is, transformation doesn't begin with any of that. It begins internally, with mindset. You can have all the tools, all the opportunities, and all the resources in the world. But if your mindset is rooted in fear, doubt, and laziness, none of it will matter. On the other hand, someone with the right mindset can create progress out of nothing. They can turn obstacles into stepping stones and use failure as fuel. Everything you need to succeed already exists within you, but it's locked behind the belief that you're not ready, not good enough, or not capable. Mindset is the lens through which you interpret life. A strong mindset sees struggle as growth, not defeat. It views rejection as redirection, not failure. It refuses to be broken by setbacks because it understands that setbacks are temporary, but resilience is forever. The biggest difference between someone who thrives and someone who stays stuck is not talent, it's the way they think. A person with a resilient mindset doesn't wait for the perfect conditions. They act, adjust, and adapt. They don't complain when things get tough. They focus, they problem solve, and they keep moving forward. That mindset is available to anyone who's willing to build it. But it requires you to confront your own limiting beliefs and decide. Then you are done playing small. The problem is, most people spend more time feeding their doubts than building their mindset. They rehearse their insecurities, dwell on their past failures, and compare themselves to others who are ahead. All of this reinforces the idea that they're behind, incapable, or undeserving. But the truth is, mindset isn't something you are born with. It's something you cultivate. It's a muscle that strengthens every time you choose discipline over distraction, effort over excuse, and purpose over comfort. It's built by pushing yourself when you don't feel like it, by learning when it's easier to ignore, and by showing up even when no one else is watching. That's where mental toughness is forged, in the moments when quitting feels easier but continuing is necessary. You don't need to wait for a miracle or a sign to start. You already have what it takes. You just need to believe it and act on it. Everything you dream of doing, becoming, or achieving begins with your mindset. If your mind is weak, even the best opportunities will slip through your fingers. But if your mind is strong, even the smallest step will lead you somewhere greater. Your mindset is the engine of your life. Feed it with courage, discipline, belief, and action. And it will take you places talent alone never could. So now, the choice is yours. You can keep living in loops, making the same excuses, staying in your comfort zone, repeating what you already know, leads nowhere. Or you can rise. You can take ownership of your actions, align them with your potential, and act with intention instead of impulse. Remember, nobody's coming to save you. All that's left is for you to stop holding yourself back and finally step into the life you were meant to lead. Be exceptional. 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 Trimasa. Trimasa.